good, y'all? It's the one and only King Cal 516 live in the mix, and this is the Swiss Flames podcast. So Zion Williamson, will he stay in New Orleans long term? We're going to try to dissect this and get right into that. But before we do, just remember to check out our website, www.swissflames.com. Hit us up on Twitter, @SwissFlames, and check out the brand new Facebook page, @SwissFlames Podcast. Please comment, hit the like, subscribe, wherever you're listening to. Shout out to everybody who might be listening on Apple, Google, iHeartRadio, YouTube, wherever you're listening to. We definitely appreciate your support and growing interest. Anyhow, with that said, Zion Williamson, we want to open that can of worms today. We know early in the offseason, it got leaked out to the public that Zion's camp is a little bit unhappy with the direction of New Orleans. And so I want to talk about this today, as you know, we're kind of like in that little in-between part in the season where we're kind of anxious for the season to start, but we're still a little bit of ways before it starts. And so, you know, a lot of the information or a lot of the transactions have slowed down and dried up in free agency. And so I'm going to start doing some topics that I just find compelling going into the season. And so this is one of those topics I find because Zion hasn't even reached the point to do his extension yet, and this is already leaking out. So the fact that this is leaking out already and he's only a couple seasons in, it's not really a great sign for the New Orleans Pelicans. Now, I'm going to give you guys a little information that goes on in the NBA when it comes to a lot of these teams, especially small market teams. And some of you who are not aware of this, now that I say it, will probably pay attention a little bit more and start realizing that this holds to be true. At the end of the day, we know a sports team is a business. And if you look at it, there are a lot of teams in the NBA that do not want to go into the luxury tax. But we see in the NBA time and time again, if you look at a lot of the teams who win the championships and a lot of the teams who contend for years at a time, I'm not talking about the teams that usually are fluke. Maybe one season they have a good season and then disappear. You know what I mean? But if you look at the teams that compete on a regular basis, they spend money. Now, some of these teams may not really spend that kind of money until they know they have a contender. Via the Lakers, you know. So the Lakers, once they got LeBron, they started becoming all in. And now you see that the Lakers, they just traded for Russell Westbrook. You see the Lakers, they're going to get hit with the luxury tax. Why? Because they want to maximize this window of championship opportunity. So you see this a lot with the big market teams. They're willing to go into the luxury tax. And a lot of small market teams aren't willing to go into luxury tax as much, because the small market teams, even though some of these small market teams have filthy rich owners, might I add, but these guys are wealthy millionaires, billionaires status for a reason. There's a reason why they have a lot of money. There's a reason why Steve Ballmer, owner of the LA Clippers, did a trade this offseason to cut $30 million off of his luxury tax bill. And I've gone into that to basically say that that was a great indication that they feel that Kawhi Leonard would not be playing this season. And so if your top gun is not playing this season, you already know your chances of winning the championship is going to be tough. So why are you going to go all out with what you're paying for 1 year if you don't really feel you have a legitimate shot? So even though Steve Ballmer is the richest owner in the league, even he is going to look to cut if he believes his team is not ready for that title, which he doesn't believe that this year, because you don't do a trade like that unless you have that information that your star player is not playing. And so for these small market teams like New Orleans Pelicans, you know, I'm explaining all that to just sit there and say, a lot of these small market teams don't want to go on luxury tax. New Orleans Pelicans are a team that doesn't go into the luxury tax. One of the reasons why AD is no longer a Pelican is because AD understood, and this is one of the reasons why AD got Rich Paul as an agent, is to get him to a team that can contend with him on it, but also is willing to spend to keep that contention going on. So you have the LA Lakers, who have a rich history of big men winning and paying money that needs to be paid to contend while they're in contention. So those elements are very crucial to a star player. So now if you have a superstar player looking for a team, a lot of these superstar players want to go to a team once they have the choice that they feel is good, that has good talent on there, they feel that has good coaching, good management, but also a willingness to spend. It was one of the reasons why LeBron left Miami. I don't think that was the main reason, but LeBron was upset by Miami not spending the money to keep certain players. LeBron, for instance, wanted Mike Miller still on the team. And when the Heat let go of Mike Miller to cut some costs, that never sat right with LeBron. That's part of the reasons why when LeBron went back to Cleveland, he was signing 1+1 deals, because he wanted to keep the ultimate leverage, because he understood that once you lock in long term, that teams can get comfortable, know that they have you locked long term. So in order for LeBron to keep his leverage on keeping the pressure on the Cavs, part of that too, was his lack of trust for Dan Gilbert. You know what I mean? For everything that happened before. But a lot had to do with just keeping their foot to the fire to make sure they kept spending. And guess what? The Cavs were deep into that luxury tax the whole time LeBron was there. To the point where we even heard some of the leaks to the media that Dan Gilbert, once LeBron left, was happy to sit there and say he has his team back. Basically because LeBron controlled the team, because he held the team hostage with those 1+1 deals. Then when they finally won a title, what happened? LeBron signed a mini long deal. He signed that, I believe it was a 2 year. I believe it was a 2 year deal with the option. And then he was able to become a free agent. And then he signed with the Lakers at that point. But he signed a few 1+1 deals before that to put the pressure on the Cavaliers. Now, the Cavaliers weren't necessarily a big market team either. You know what I'm saying? But they have a rich owner that could spend the money. And so LeBron was smart to leverage that. And a lot of these superstars want to do that. If you look at Kevin Durant over in Brooklyn, I'm pretty sure he went to Brooklyn knowing that they would have the money to keep spending to keep him in contention. Now they have a big three. What are they trying to do right now? They just signed Kevin Durant to an extension. They're working on Kyrie Irving and James Harden's extension. So that's going to be another team deep into the luxury tax. So with Zion Williamson on the New Orleans Pelicans, I already know off the bat, they're a small market team. Their revenue is not off the charts. So they're going to be watching how they spend it, because ultimately, these people who own the team want to make money. And Gail Benson, who owns the Pelicans, also owns the Saints. So you own two sports teams. It's safe to say you got some money, right? But once again, remember, most of these owners want to have a profit. Let's make no mistake about it. And for some of them, going into the luxury tax will start to put them in the red, and they want to avoid that at all costs. And so that becomes important, because if you're a small market team, you got to hit on your draft picks. You got to have a great scouting department. You got to definitely hit on the majority of your draft picks, because you have little room for error. Because more than likely, you are not going to get the top superstar players wanting to come to you. Now, I'll give you a great example. Right before free agency, New Orleans was able to swing a great deal to open up some cap space so that they can sign a max player. It was a great deal. But they struck out in free agency. They were hoping for Chris Paul maybe want to change teams, which was highly unlikely. But more than anything, we are pretty aware that Kyle Lowry was high on their list, hoping to attract him. But if you're Kyle Lowry, New Orleans, the only way you take that big payday from New Orleans is if you can't get on a team that's a contender that can pay you what you're looking for. But Miami Heat was able to work it out in a sign and trade. Kyle Lowry already knows he's better off in Miami to contend than trying to take a risk with the Pelicans with Zion and Brandon Ingram, which is not a knock on neither one of those guys, but those guys are young and haven't won anything yet. Kyle Lowry's close to the end of his career. He's already won a championship. So he's probably trying to put himself in the best situation to win and where he wants to be. So Miami made a lot of sense for him. And the New Orleans Pelicans were left with picking up Devontae Graham as their point guard and re-signing Josh Hart and letting go of Lonzo Ball. So New Orleans hasn't really done much during the offseason. So now you're really banking on the improvement play of Zion, who you're going to run the offense through a lot more, who's going to be ball handling a lot more, and Brandon Ingram. In the Western Conference, and even in the Eastern Conference, it's going to be tough for that team to make the playoffs, even this season. Now, they got a new coach, and we'll see if the philosophy changes. They have talent that they can compete for the lower playoff seeds, but it's going to be rough and tough in that Western Conference. You got a Memphis team that is still hungry. You got a Golden State team that will get back Klay Thompson that would be better. You got Portland, you got Denver, you got the Lakers, you got the Clippers still. Even with Kawhi Leonard, they're still going to be a pretty good team. You got the Phoenix Suns, who just went to the championship. They lost, but they're going to have a whole lot of confidence. You know what I mean? You got the Utah Jazz. Listen, the Western Conference is stacked. And so, if the New Orleans Pelicans do not hit on these draft picks, because I'm already going to put out there, it's going to be hard for them to get a major free agent, life-changing free agent to come down there. So you got to hit with these mid-pack players off the free agency market, but you got to hit even better with your draft picks in the next 2 seasons. Because if you don't do that, Zion is going to sign his rookie extension, because there is no player that does not sign the rookie extension, because it's too much money when you're that young to leave on the table. But once he secures that rookie contract extension, which the Pelicans are going to throw at him, you're going to be definitely on the clock. And the truth is, you're already on the clock, because you got to work this team around. So by the time you sign that extension, you have a team that you can contend with. And I just think with David Griffin, that's putting a lot on him. And there's going to be a lot of pressure on him. Because even though I don't blame him for Anthony Davis being traded, because he came in that offseason where they had to trade Anthony Davis, that would probably mean that you have to trade 2 generational talents in your reign overseeing a team. And you just don't want that on your resume if you're David Griffin. And so everything they're doing now is in consideration. How can we maximize Zion Williamson? How can we make Zion Williamson happy? Zion Williamson right now has the New Orleans Pelicans on notice, and he has them at his disposal, because no superstar player in the first couple of seasons put something like that in the media. And no, I do not think Zion Williamson said those things publicly. No, he didn't. But people from his camp leaked things to the media, which means that's probably a sentiment that he's feeling as well, looking around. And Zion has made it no secret that he loves MSG. And we know the hype. Everybody wanted to see him going to New York with the Knicks. And so this is going to be interesting to see how it plays out with the New Orleans Pelicans. But this offseason, they didn't really do much. And I don't know how much that moves the needle. You know what I'm saying? If these guys exceed, they stay healthy and overachieve, they'll get one of those bottom playoff spots from 6 to 8 this offseason. To me, at the best they can do is probably around there. And it's still going to be a dogfight to get one of those spots, because like we just mentioned, the West is stacked. It is what it is. And so we'll see what the Pelicans do, but they're on the clock from now. And this is why you see a lot of shifting going on with them, and they're trying to figure things out. This is why they did a coaching change, because they know they don't have time to play. They got to find the right situation before Zion signs that extension. Because once he signs that extension, you are definitely on the clock, because now he's got his money. So now he can leverage to go to whatever team he wants to if he feels like you're not getting the job done. We've seen a lot of superstars do that. So we'll see how this all unfolds. With that said, it's your boy King Cal 516 live in the mix. This has been the Switch Flame Podcast. Make sure you comment. Let me know what you think about Zion Williamson and the Pelicans. Do you think he's going to be there long term, or do you think he's out the door? Comment. Let me know what you think. I'm signing off. Peace.